The little girl had not spoken a single word to anyone in nearly 6 years. Doctors had called it selective mutism brought on by unbearable grief. Therapists had tried every proven method. Specialists had traveled from across the country. Nothing had worked. Yet on a bright spring afternoon, in the middle of a crowded city botanical garden, the billionaire who had spent millions searching for a miracle stood frozen in disbelief as her silent daughter looked into the eyes of a complete stranger and quietly whispered, "You came back. If you believe kindness, forgiveness, hope, and second chances can change lives, please take a moment to like this video, leave a meaningful comment, share it with someone you care about, and subscribe to our channel." Every act of support helps our community continue sharing stories that remind us the human heart is stronger than fear. Celeste Whitmore had built one of the largest renewable energy companies in North America through relentless determination. Magazine covers called her fearless. Investors called her brilliant. Competitors called her unstoppable. But none of those titles mattered when she returned to her empty mansion every afternoon with her 12-year-old daughter, Marin, whose silence echoed louder than any conversation ever could. 6 years earlier, Marin had witnessed a devastating boating accident that claimed her father's life. She had survived physically, but something inside her had closed forever. Since that terrible day, she communicated only through writing, small gestures, and expressions that revealed more pain than words ever could. Celeste had spared no expense searching for healing. The world's leading child psychologists, speech therapists, trauma experts, and neurological specialists had all tried to help. Every hopeful breakthrough ended with another heartbreaking disappointment. Eventually, Celeste stopped expecting miracles. She focused instead on protecting Marin from a world that constantly asked impossible questions. Every weekday afternoon became their quiet tradition. They visited parks, museums, gardens, and peaceful public places where Marin could simply exist without pressure. It was during one of those outings that everything changed. Across the botanical garden sat a man on an old wooden bench, sharing pieces of bread with small birds that gathered around his worn boots. His clothes were clean but modest. His backpack looked faded from years of use. Beside him laughed a cheerful little boy chasing butterflies through patches of colorful flowers. The man was named Grant Mercer. Few people noticed him. Fewer still could have imagined the life he had lived. Years before, Grant had served with distinction as a Navy SEAL, completing dangerous rescue operations across hostile regions of the world. His courage earned medals that remained hidden inside a dusty storage box. During his final mission, an explosion left him with permanent injuries and painful memories that no surgery could erase. Returning home proved harder than surviving combat. His marriage collapsed under the weight of invisible scars, and shortly afterward his former wife passed away following a long illness, leaving Grant to raise their young son, Owen, alone. Rather than seeking sympathy, Grant embraced an ordinary life. He repaired boats, volunteered with veterans recovering from trauma, and devoted every free afternoon to his son. He rarely spoke about his military service because he believed true strength did not require recognition. As Marin wandered among the flowers, she suddenly stopped. Her eyes fixed on Grant. She slowly walked toward him without hesitation. Celeste followed nervously, uncertain why her daughter seemed unusually determined. Grant noticed the approaching girl and simply smiled with quiet kindness. He made no attempt to speak. Years of helping traumatized veterans had taught him that silence sometimes carried more comfort than conversation. Marin studied his face with extraordinary concentration. Then, without warning, she whispered 4 words. "You came back for me." The entire garden seemed to stop breathing. Celeste's knees nearly gave way. Grant's smile disappeared, replaced by stunned confusion. Marin continued staring at him as tears quietly rolled down her cheeks. She reached out and gently held his weathered hand. No one spoke for several long moments. Celeste finally managed to explain her daughter's condition, apologizing repeatedly through trembling tears. Grant listened patiently, showing neither surprise nor discomfort. Instead of asking questions, he simply knelt so his eyes remained level with Marin's and offered a gentle nod that carried neither pity nor expectation. Something inside the frightened girl relaxed. That afternoon became the beginning of an unexpected friendship. Over the following weeks, Celeste frequently returned to the botanical garden during daylight hours. Grant and Owen were often there after school, enjoying simple picnics or feeding birds. There was never any formal arrangement. Somehow their paths naturally crossed again and again. Grant never attempted to become Marin's therapist. He never asked why she had stopped speaking. He never praised tiny improvements or celebrated every sound she made. Instead, he treated her exactly as he treated Owen. They built birdhouses. They planted wildflowers. They skipped stones across a calm pond. They watched squirrels race through towering trees. Every activity carried patience instead of pressure. Gradually, Marin began communicating more often. First with smiles. Then with laughter. Eventually with single words. Celeste watched each tiny victory with grateful disbelief. For the first time in years, the enormous mansion echoed with sounds other than silence. Despite these joyful changes, Grant carefully maintained respectful distance from Celeste's extraordinary wealth. He declined expensive gifts, ignored media attention, and politely refused generous job offers from executives eager to reward the mysterious veteran helping their CEO's daughter. His independence intrigued Celeste. She had spent years surrounded by people seeking access to her fortune. Grant wanted nothing. That made trusting him both easier and strangely frightening. One afternoon, while volunteering together at a community garden, Celeste accidentally noticed faded scars running along Grant's forearm and shoulder. She asked gently about them. Grant quietly admitted they came from military service. Only after considerable hesitation did he reveal he had once been a Navy SEAL. Celeste stared in astonishment. Nothing about him reflected the image she associated with elite soldiers. There was no arrogance, no dramatic storytelling, no desire for admiration. He described his service with remarkable humility, speaking more about teammates he had lost than missions he had completed. What impressed Celeste most was not his bravery during war but his compassion afterward. Grant explained that surviving danger had taught him people healed best when they felt safe rather than fixed. Those words lingered in Celeste's heart. As months passed, Marin's recovery accelerated. She began speaking complete sentences to Owen. Soon she spoke to Grant. Eventually she whispered short conversations with her mother. Every new word felt like sunlight entering rooms that had remained dark for years. Still, healing rarely follows a straight path. News outlets eventually discovered Grant's military background and his growing connection with one of America's most influential business leaders. Speculation exploded across television and social media. Some accused Grant of manipulating Celeste for financial gain. Others claimed the relationship had been carefully staged for publicity. Photographers followed them through public parks during broad daylight. Headlines questioned Grant's motives. The criticism reached Owen at school. It reached Marin online. Most painfully, it reached Grant himself. Rather than defend his reputation, Grant quietly withdrew. He stopped visiting the botanical garden. He believed disappearing would protect both families from further scrutiny. Marin noticed immediately. The spark returning to her eyes began fading once again. One sunny afternoon she walked into her mother's office carrying a handwritten note. Unlike previous notes, this one contained only a single sentence. "People always leave because they think they're protecting me." Celeste read the words over and over. For years she had fought every battle with money, lawyers, and influence. Now she understood this battle required something different. She drove to Grant's modest lakeside workshop where he repaired aging fishing boats. She found him sanding weathered wood while Owen organized tools nearby. Grant looked surprised but remained calm. Celeste finally admitted the truth she had hidden from herself. She confessed she had become so afraid of losing another person who genuinely cared about Marin that she had unintentionally allowed rumors to push him away. Grant quietly admitted he feared becoming another painful goodbye in Marin's life. Neither had realized they were making the same mistake from opposite directions. That afternoon they returned together to the botanical garden. When Marin saw Grant walking toward her, she did not hesitate. She ran. For years she had walked cautiously through life, protecting herself from disappointment. Now she ran with complete trust. She wrapped her arms around Grant. Then she looked up at her mother. For the first time since the accident years earlier, Marin spoke clearly enough for everyone nearby to hear. "He didn't come back because I needed saving." She smiled through tears. "He came back because families don't quit." Those simple words dissolved years of grief. Celeste embraced both her daughter and Grant, understanding that healing had never arrived through expensive treatments alone. It had arrived through consistency. Through patience. Through ordinary afternoons filled with kindness. Months later, the media lost interest as newer stories replaced old rumors. Grant continued repairing boats. Celeste continued leading her company. Their lives remained grounded despite extraordinary circumstances. Marin enrolled in school full-time once again, making friends and discovering a love for environmental science. Owen proudly encouraged every achievement as though celebrating his own sister. Together, the four of them volunteered every weekend at children's trauma recovery programs, creating quiet outdoor spaces where healing could happen naturally. Grant rarely mentioned his military past, but veterans recognized something familiar in his calm presence. Children recognized it too. Safety needs no introduction. One bright autumn afternoon, exactly 1 year after Marin had first spoken in the garden, dozens of families gathered there for a community celebration honoring volunteers. There were no grand speeches. No expensive ceremonies. Only laughter, music, children planting flowers, and neighbors sharing meals beneath golden trees. Celeste watched Marin confidently helping younger children build birdhouses alongside Owen. The little girl who had once hidden behind silence was now encouraging others with gentle words and patient smiles. Grant stood nearby, quietly fixing a loose wooden bench for the park staff before anyone even asked. Celeste realized true heroes often hide in ordinary clothes, carrying extraordinary stories they never expect the world to applaud. Before we reach the end of this journey, take a moment to leave a meaningful comment sharing what touched your heart most. Do you believe patience can heal wounds that money never could, or has someone quietly changed your life simply by refusing to give up on you? Your story may become the hope someone else needs today. As the afternoon sun bathed the garden in warm light, Marin slipped her small hand into her mother's and looked toward Grant and Owen with a peaceful smile that no longer carried fear. The silence that had once imprisoned her had been replaced not by constant conversation, but by trust, belonging, and hope. Celeste finally understood that the greatest fortune she would ever possess was not measured in billions of dollars but in the people who stayed when life became difficult. Grant had hidden a remarkable Navy SEAL past, yet his greatest act of courage was never performed on a battlefield. It was choosing compassion over recognition, patience over pride, and love over fear. In helping one frightened little girl rediscover her voice, he reminded everyone around him that the strongest hearts are often the gentlest ones, and that sometimes a stranger enters your life not to rescue you, but to help you remember the strength that was waiting inside you all along. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, leave a meaningful comment, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to our channel so you never miss another emotional journey. May our community always choose kindness over judgment, hope over fear, forgiveness over bitterness, and never underestimate how one patient heart can change another forever.